All right, so we're going to start a page of notes today on two-step equations continued. And so let's look at a quick review of how to do a regular two-step. And remember, we had some steps. So go ahead and write these down. Number one, draw a line down the equal sign. Go and write that down. Draw a line down the equal sign. Number two, find the variable. And number three, do the X is strategy. Give you a second to catch up. All right, so do the X is strategy. So those are the three steps. So let's look at a quick problem. Number one, 2x plus 5 equals 13. Follow my steps. I'm going to draw a line down the equal sign. Split it up into two sides, because what I do to one side, I have to do to the other. Then I need to find my variable. My variable is x right here, so I know I need to be looking at the left side. And step number 3, do the x's table. So there's my x. All right, so what's happening to x is I have right there, I have a times by 2, and I have a plus 5. And remember, we go in PEMDAS order, parentheses, exponents, multiply, divide, add, subtract. Well, multiplying comes first, so I'm going to do times 2 first, and then plus 5. And to solve it, I'm just going to do the inverse, INV, the inverse, meaning the opposite. Opposite of times by 2 is divide by 2. Opposite of plus 5 is minus 5. So I do the inverse in reverse. So I'm going to start here with a minus 5 to both sides. These 5's cancel, so I get 2x equals 13 minus 5 is 8. Check your answers there so far. Then I'm going to divide by 2. Divide by 2, divide by 2. Those cancel out. X equals 8 divided by 2 is 4. Good, so that's the review. Now, let me show you a new type of problem. Negative 23 equals negative 4a plus 1. Draw a line down the equal sign. So these ones are a little bit different because of the negative sign. Well, they're actually the same. You just have to remember the negative sign. I guess that's a better way to put it. X is. This time, my variable is on the right side. So I'm only going to look at the right side. I'm going to look at what's happening. So 2a, I am multiplying it by negative 4. So there's a times by negative 4. And there is a plus 1. Well, I know times goes first. So I'm going to times it by negative 1. Sorry, times it by negative 4, and then I'm going to plus 1. Times by negative 4 plus 1. So to solve it, I'm going to do the inverse in reverse. Opposite of times by negative 4, I'm going to divide it by that same number. Make sure you make it negative because there's a negative here. And then then I have a plus 1, so I'm going to minus 1. I'm going to do the inverse in reverse. So I'm going to start with my minus 1. So minus 1, what I do to one side, I have to do to the other. And when I did that, those canceled. Bring down my negative 4a. Negative 23 and negative 1, those are both negative, so I can add them, and I get negative 24. Check your answers there so far. Now I'm going to finish it by doing a divide by negative 4, divide by negative 4. Make sure you include that negative, because these two numbers need to be the same, so that way they cancel out. A equals negative divided by negative is positive. 24 divided by 4 is 6. So A equals 6. Good. Check your answers there. We're just going to do one last one. Number 3. 48 equals 45 minus y over 6. All right. Draw a line down the equal sign. My variable is y, and it's on the right side, so I'm only going to look at the right side. X is. Now, what are the two things happening? Now, whenever I see a subtraction sign, here's the new thing. Whenever I see a subtraction sign there, what I should be doing is adding the opposite. So sorry about that. When I see a subtraction sign, I should add the opposite. I should add the opposite. I should add the opposite. So let me do that. I'm going to change it to adding the opposite. Now I need to add a negative sign, and I'm going to add that I could add it to the y or the 6, but what's easier is to always add it to the number, not the variable. Add it to the number. So I'm adding the opposite. That 6 becomes a -6. So now the two things that are going on in this problem, I'm dividing, right? Remember, this means dividing. I'm dividing by a -6. And this 45 is positive. So it's like I'm adding 45 and I'm adding 45. So make sure you add the opposite. So that's going to become -45 and then times by, don't forget that -6. So I'm going to -45, -45. That gives me a 3. 48 minus 45 is 3. These canceled. Bring down the y over -6. Now my last step here is to multiply by a -6. Remember, it needs to be the same number, so that way they cancel. If I multiply the right side by -6, I have to multiply the left side by -6. And -6 times 3 is -18. Good, check your work there. So the question was, if I see a subtraction sign, what should I do? I should add the opposite. Good, make sure you write those down. I should add the opposite, and those will be your notes for today.